August 1943. Camp Aliceville, Alabama. The thick brown paste between two slices of impossibly white bread bewildered Oberkriegreiter Klaus Hartmann, who stared at what the American Guard called lunch. After 18 months fighting across North African deserts, surviving on hardtack and chicory coffee, this sandwich defied every assumption about wartime sustenance. The creamy substance, labeled peanut butter in English, combined with purple grape jelly to create something that had no equivalent in German vocabulary or experience. Hartmann lifted the sandwich cautiously, noting its substantial weight. The bread alone exceeded the quality of what German officers received on special occasions. Soft, enriched, and pure white represented industrial refinement that German bakeries achieved only for the wealthy. Between these premium slices lay ingredients that challenged his understanding of military logistics. Ground peanuts, processed into a smooth paste, were mixed with what appeared to be concentrated fruit preserves. In Germany, such ingredients would constitute a luxury meal reserved for Christmas or birthdays, if available at all. The first bite delivered sensations unknown to European palates. Creamy salt meets concentrated sweetness, protein, and sugar, combining in ratios that German cuisine never attempted. The texture contrasted sharply with the coarse black bread and thin soup that sustained Wehrmacht troops. Here was food designed for pleasure as much as nutrition, using ingredients that German quartermasters would classify as non-essential luxuries. Yet, American guards informed prisoners that children across America carried identical sandwiches to school daily, treating this abundance as routine sustenance. Across American prison camps that summer, 425,683 German prisoners of war encountered similar bewilderment. Camp records documented the systematic distribution of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches as standard lunch fare, supplementing hot meals that already exceeded German military rations. These simple sandwiches, costing approximately 15 cents to produce, represented mathematical impossibilities to men accustomed to calculated scarcity. The casual use of ground nuts, concentrated fruit, and refined flour for everyday meals suggested productive capacity that contradicted Nazi propaganda about American industrial weakness. The ingredients themselves told stories of abundance that prisoners struggled to comprehend. Peanut butter, unknown in European cuisine, required massive agricultural production, sophisticated processing, and nationwide distribution networks. American peanut farms produced 1.5 billion pounds annually, with Georgia and Alabama fields visible from some prison camps, yielding harvests that dwarfed entire German agricultural regions. The jelly component demanded similar industrial coordination, processing millions of tons of grapes and other fruits into shelf-stable preserves available in every American grocery store. Documentation from Camp Aliceville quartermaster records shows prisoners consuming approximately 3,000 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches daily during August 1943. Each sandwich contained 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, 1 tablespoon of jelly, and 2 slices of enriched white bread, providing roughly 380 calories and 16 grams of protein. When available, German military rations delivered 2,200 calories daily, with protein sources limited to small portions of ersatz sausage or occasional cheese. The nutritional density of a single American sandwich approached that of an entire German field meal. Prisoner reactions, documented in censored letters home, revealed systematic psychological impact. Letters to families described food that seemed fictional, an abundance that contradicted everything Nazi ideology taught about American society. Families in bombed German cities, surviving on rutabaga soup and ersatz coffee, received descriptions of meals featuring ingredients they hadn't seen since peacetime. The contrast between prisoner plenty and civilian starvation began undermining faith in Nazi promises of eventual victory. The manufacturing sophistication behind these sandwiches gradually became apparent to observant prisoners. The peanut butter displayed perfect consistency across different containers, suggesting quality control standards that German industry rarely achieved. Brand names like Skippy and Peter Pan appeared on identical jars throughout the camp system, indicating distribution networks spanning thousands of miles. The jelly maintained uniform sweetness and texture, whether grape, strawberry, or raspberry varieties, demonstrating industrial standardization that impressed technically minded prisoners. American guards treated these sandwiches with casual indifference, often discarding partially eaten portions without concern. This waste, incomprehensible to men from a society where every crumb mattered, suggested abundant resources that conservation became unnecessary. Guards explained that American children regularly threw away half-finished sandwiches, preferring fresh ones to day-old bread. Such casual disposal of nutritious food indicated productive capacity beyond German comprehension, an abundance so vast that it permitted waste without consequence. The psychological transformation began with that first bite, though prisoners wouldn't recognize its significance for months. The creamy sweetness of peanut butter combined with grape jelly represented more than sustenance. It embodied democratic abundance where premium ingredients became commonplace, where enemy prisoners ate better than German civilians, where children's lunch surpassed officers' rations. In that moment of confused pleasure, tasting impossible luxury made routine, the foundation of Nazi superiority began its quiet collapse, one sandwich at a time. What started as simple bewilderment at American food would evolve into a complete worldview revolution, challenging everything these soldiers believed about strength, weakness, and the societies worth fighting for. The brown paste that mystified German prisoners represented America's most unlikely industrial triumph. Peanut butter, invented by Dr. John Harvey Kellogg in 1895 and perfected by commercial manufacturers over 4 decades, had evolved into a $50 million industry by 1943. What began as a health food experiment in a Michigan sanitarium now sustained millions of American children daily, with production reaching £300 million annually, despite wartime restrictions on other luxury items. Major brands like Skippy, introduced by Joseph Rosefield in 1932, and Peter Pan, launched by Swift & Company in 1928, competed nationally for market dominance, using innovations that German food scientists couldn't replicate. The agricultural foundation supporting this abundance stretched across southern states, visible from prison camp windows. Georgia peanut farms alone produced £400 million annually, with individual plantations covering thousands of acres, whereas German family farms measured in dozens. Modern mechanical harvesters, unavailable to European farmers, gathered crops at rates exceeding £2,000 per acre, compared to Germany's hand-picked yields of £800 when weather permitted. Alabama fields surrounding Camp Aliceville processed peanuts through steam-heated shellers, mechanical sorters, and automated roasters operating 24 hours daily during harvest season, producing raw materials that disappeared into a distribution network spanning 3,000 miles. The manufacturing process itself demonstrated industrial sophistication that impressed technically minded prisoners assigned to kitchen duties. Commercial peanut butter production began with oil roasting at precisely 320 degrees Fahrenheit, followed by mechanical grinding through steel mills that reduced roasted peanuts to particles measuring 0.25 millimeters, ensuring the smooth consistency that characterized American brands. Stabilization additives, developed through food science research unavailable in Germany, prevented oil separation for months without refrigeration. Quality control laboratories tested each batch for consistency, salt content and shelf stability, using the German industry's scientific methods reserved for military equipment. Planters Peanut Company records from 1943 document production facilities processing 150,000 pounds of raw peanuts daily into finished products distributed across 48 states within 2 weeks of manufacture. The logistics required specialized transportation, temperature-controlled warehouses, and retail networks that delivered identical products to rural Alabama prison camps and Manhattan delicatessens simultaneously. This coordination exceeded German military supply capabilities, achieving civilian distribution efficiency that German quartermasters couldn't match for essential military rations. Jelly production revealed parallel industrial achievements in fruit processing and preservation. The Welch's Grape Juice Company, established in 1869 but achieving national prominence by 1940, processed millions of tons of Concord grapes through steam extractors, sugar concentration systems, and sterilization processes that created shelf-stable preserves lasting years without spoilage. Smucker's, founded in 1897, operated facilities throughout fruit-growing regions, coordinating harvests from thousands of independent farms into standardized products that maintain consistent sweetness, texture, and color regardless of seasonal variations or geographic origin. The grape jelly served to prisoners originated from vineyards in New York, California, and Michigan, covering 200,000 acres dedicated to processing varieties rather than wine production. American agricultural research had developed grape strains optimized for jelly production, balancing sugar content, pectin levels, and flavor intensity through selective breeding programs that required decades of investment in outcomes rather than immediate survival needs. Single processing plants operated by major manufacturers handled 50,000 tons of fruit annually, using industrial steam kettles, automated filling machinery, and glass jar production lines, creating millions of containers monthly. Sugar consumption patterns underlying American jelly production contradicted German wartime experience entirely. Despite rationing restrictions, American jelly manufacturers received government allocations permitting continued civilian production at 85% of peacetime levels. German civilians, meanwhile, received monthly sugar rations of 280 grams when available, insufficient for a single batch of homemade preserves. American industrial food processing consumed sugar quantities that German families couldn't obtain in entire years, yet prisoners observed this abundance treated casually, with partially consumed jars frequently discarded. Bread production supporting sandwich consumption demonstrated mechanized agriculture and industrial baking, dwarfing European capabilities. American wheat production exceeded 950 million bushels annually, with individual farms in Kansas and Nebraska covering areas larger than small German states. Mechanized combines harvested grain at rates of 100 acres daily per machine, requiring fuel consumption that German agriculture couldn't sustain for essential food production. Commercial bakeries like Continental Baking Company operated facilities producing 100,000 loaves daily using continuous mixing, automated kneading, and gas-fired ovens that maintained precise temperatures throughout 24-hour production cycles. The white bread served to prisoners represented industrial food processing achievements that German bakeries couldn't approach. Flour enrichment programs, mandated by federal legislation, added vitamins and minerals that improved nutritional content beyond naturally occurring levels. Bleaching processes created the pure white color that prisoners associated with luxury baking, while preservatives extended shelf life to 2 weeks without refrigeration. These innovations required chemical knowledge, industrial equipment, and quality control systems that German food production, focused on basic sustenance, never developed. Distribution networks supporting peanut butter and jelly sandwich ingredients revealed organizational capabilities that challenged German assumptions about American industrial coordination. Railroad refrigeration cars maintained consistent temperatures during cross-country transport, preventing spoilage of perishable ingredients while delivering products to remote locations within days of manufacture. Trucking networks, supported by improved road systems and standardized loading equipment, completed last-mile delivery to individual prison camps with reliability that German military supply lines rarely achieved. This civilian distribution efficiency, operating while simultaneously supporting global military operations, demonstrated productive capacity that rendered Nazi economic planning obsolete. German prisoners working near American schools witnessed a daily miracle that shattered their understanding of childhood and society. Each morning at 8 a.m., thousands of children arrived, carrying brown paper bags containing sandwiches identical to those served in prison camps. These weren't special treats or rewards for good behavior, but routine meals that American parents prepared without thought. Children as young as 6 years old unwrapped peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, ate half portions, and casually discarded the remainder in waste bins that German prisoners later emptied with growing amazement. The National School Lunch Program, operating in experimental form during wartime, served hot meals to children whose families could afford the 15-cent daily fee. Yet even children receiving free school lunches brought peanut butter sandwiches from home, treating ingredients that cost more than German workers earned in a day as everyday sustenance. Prisoners assigned to school maintenance duties observed cafeteria workers preparing hundreds of sandwiches simultaneously, spreading peanut butter and jelly with mechanical efficiency. At the same time, children waited in orderly lines, expecting abundance as their natural right. American children displayed preferences that bewildered European observers accustomed to gratitude for any available food. Some demanded exclusively grape jelly, rejecting strawberry or raspberry varieties with complaints that German children would never speak about any available nutrition. Others insisted on crunchy peanut butter over smooth textures, exercising consumer choice in wartime that German civilians couldn't imagine during peacetime prosperity. Teachers encouraged these preferences, viewing individual taste as democratic expression rather than wasteful pickiness. The social equality demonstrated through shared food consumption contradicted everything German prisoners understood about class structure and social hierarchy. Factory workers' children ate identical sandwiches to those consumed by bankers' sons, prepared with similar ingredients purchased from identical stores at identical prices. American schools made no distinction between rich and poor students regarding lunch quality, with cafeteria workers serving everyone the same portions using the same recipes, regardless of family social status or economic circumstances. Regional variations in sandwich preparation revealed American diversity within abundance rather than scarcity driving differentiation. Southern children preferred grape jelly with smooth peanut butter on white bread, while Northern students favored strawberry preserves with crunchy textures on wheat varieties. Western schools served sandwiches with locally produced honey instead of commercial jellies, demonstrating that abundance permitted choice rather than forcing standardization. These regional preferences reflected cultural diversity supported by economic prosperity rather than necessity driving adaptation. The picnic culture surrounding peanut butter and jelly sandwiches introduced German observers to leisure abundance that seemed impossible during wartime. American families devoted entire weekends to outdoor recreation, packing elaborate meals featuring sandwiches as portable sustenance for non-essential activities. Church groups organized community gatherings where hundreds of sandwiches disappeared within hours, consumed for pleasure rather than survival necessity. Boy Scout troops carried identical provisions on camping trips, using premium ingredients for entertainment rather than reserving them for emergencies. German prisoners observed American mothers preparing dozens of sandwiches for children's birthday parties, using ingredients that would sustain German families for weeks as entertainment food for single afternoons. The casual preparation, completed while managing household tasks and conversations, demonstrated that sandwich making required no special attention or ceremony, despite ingredient costs exceeding German monthly food budgets. These observations revealed abundance so complete that luxury became routine, requiring no conscious appreciation or careful conservation. Working details assigned to American kitchens provided intimate knowledge of food preparation methods that challenged German assumptions about wartime resource management. Home kitchens contained multiple jars of different peanut butter brands simultaneously, allowing family members to choose their own preferences without economic constraint. Refrigerators stored several varieties of jelly and jam, with selection based on mood rather than availability. Bread remained fresh for days rather than requiring immediate consumption, demonstrating preservation methods and supply reliability unknown in Germany. The waste patterns observed in American households created a profound psychological impact among German prisoners accustomed to valuing every crumb. Half-eaten sandwiches appeared in garbage cans daily, discarded because children preferred fresh preparations to day-old bread. Open jars of peanut butter and jelly expired unused and were replaced by identical products without concern for economic loss. Bread loaves grew stale and disappeared into waste systems, treated as disposable commodities rather than precious resources requiring careful stewardship. American informality regarding food preparation and consumption revealed cultural attitudes that German military discipline couldn't accommodate. Children prepared their own sandwiches before school, exercising independence that German parents would never permit regarding valuable food resources. Teenagers consumed sandwiches while walking, reading, or engaging in conversation, treating eating as a casual activity rather than a formal meal requiring attention and gratitude. This relaxed relationship with food reflected security and abundance that German society couldn't achieve even during peacetime prosperity. The impossibility factor reached its peak when German prisoners realized that American dogs received peanut butter as treats, consuming ingredients reserved for human sustenance in Germany. Pet food advertisements featured peanut butter products designed specifically for animals, demonstrating an abundance so complete that luxury human food became routine animal nutrition. This observation completed the cognitive disruption that began with that first sandwich, revealing a society wealthy enough to feed enemies and pets alike with ingredients that their own government couldn't provide to loyal citizens. The nutritional analysis conducted by German army physicians examining returning prisoners revealed data that challenged fundamental assumptions about wartime sustenance and enemy capabilities. Each peanut butter and jelly sandwich delivered 380 calories, 16 grams of complete protein, and essential amino acids that German military rations provided only through expensive meat allocations. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter contained more protein than the daily ersatz sausage portions allocated to Wehrmacht troops, while providing sustained energy release that prevented the afternoon weakness common among soldiers subsisting on potato soup and black bread. American military nutritionists had calculated optimal prisoner feeding requirements using scientific methods that German quartermaster services never developed. The sandwich combination provided balanced macronutrients, with peanut butter supplying healthy fats and plant proteins, while jelly contributed quick-release carbohydrates for immediate energy needs. Enriched white bread added B vitamins, iron, and calcium through federal mandates requiring nutritional fortification, creating complete nutrition from simple ingredients that German field kitchens couldn't match using traditional preparations. Economic efficiency studies revealed the mathematical superiority underlying American prison camp feeding systems. A complete peanut butter and jelly sandwich cost approximately 18 cents to produce in 1943, including ingredients, labor, and distribution expenses. German military rations, when fully available, required 28 cents equivalent for comparable caloric content, using inferior ingredients that provided less nutritional value per Deutsche Mark invested. American bulk purchasing power, supported by mechanized agriculture and industrial food processing, achieved cost advantages that German economic planning couldn't approach. Agricultural innovation supporting peanut production demonstrated scientific farming methods that German agriculture lacked despite centuries of cultivation experience. American peanut varieties, developed through selective breeding programs at land-grant universities, produced yields exceeding 3,000 pounds per acre under optimal conditions compared to German legume crops, which averaged 1,200 pounds when weather permitted successful harvests. Mechanized cultivation, fertilization, and harvesting reduced labor requirements to 2 man-hours per acre versus German hand labor methods requiring 20 hours for equivalent production. The industrial food processing systems observed by German prisoners working in American facilities revealed automation levels that German manufacturing never achieved, even for military equipment production. Peanut butter manufacturing plants operate continuous production lines processing 50,000 pounds of raw materials daily through automated roasting, grinding, and packaging systems that require minimal human supervision. Quality control laboratories tested each batch for consistency, bacterial contamination, and nutritional content using scientific methods that German industry reserved for precision engineering applications rather than food preparation. Military procurement records documented the systematic efficiency underlying American prison camp supply operations. Government contracts with major manufacturers guaranteed monthly delivery of 500,000 pounds of peanut butter to camps nationwide, with distribution networks ensuring identical products reached facilities from Maine to California within similar timeframes. This coordination exceeded German military supply capabilities during peak operational periods, achieving civilian distribution reliability that German quartermasters couldn't maintain for essential military supplies during active combat. The surplus economy supporting casual food consumption revealed productive capacity that rendered German wartime economics obsolete before hostilities began. American agriculture produced peanuts, grapes, and wheat in quantities exceeding domestic consumption by substantial margins, permitting export sales while maintaining abundant civilian supplies and feeding enemy prisoners simultaneously. German agricultural output, optimized through intensive cultivation methods, barely sustained civilian populations during peacetime while requiring imported supplements for military operations. Storage and preservation technologies supporting sandwich ingredients demonstrated industrial chemistry advances unavailable to German food processing capabilities. Peanut butter remained stable for 18 months without refrigeration through hydrogenation processes and antioxidant additives that prevented rancidity. Jelly products maintained consistent quality for 2 years using sterilization and sealing methods that eliminated spoilage bacteria while preserving nutritional content. These preservation techniques enabled strategic food reserves that German planners couldn't establish using traditional methods. The mechanized farming revolution, underlying ingredient production, revealed an agricultural transformation that German farming communities couldn't comprehend despite centuries of cultivation expertise. American farms covering thousands of acres operated using gasoline-powered tractors, mechanical cultivators, and harvesting equipment that completed seasonal work requiring hundreds of German farm workers using traditional methods. Crop rotation systems incorporating peanuts actually improved soil fertility while producing abundant harvests, contradicting German agricultural theory, emphasizing intensive land use over sustainable productivity. Scientific nutrition research, supporting American military feeding programs, applied laboratory methods to food preparation that German medical services never developed. Controlled studies measured protein absorption rates, caloric efficiency, and vitamin bioavailability from different ingredient combinations, optimizing prisoner nutrition through evidence-based meal planning rather than traditional cooking methods. This scientific approach to food preparation reflected research infrastructure and educational resources that German institutions couldn't match even during peacetime academic pursuits. The cost-benefit analysis of feeding enemy prisoners revealed American economic thinking that German military planners couldn't understand. Maintaining prisoner health through superior nutrition reduced medical expenses, improved work productivity, and prevented security problems associated with malnutrition-induced desperation. American administrators calculated that 18-cent sandwiches generated greater economic returns through healthier prisoners than minimal feeding would provide through reduced immediate costs, but increased long-term complications. Quality standardization across vast distribution networks demonstrated industrial coordination that impressed German engineering specialists familiar with precision manufacturing requirements. Identical peanut butter taste and texture from Maine to California required quality control standards, ingredient sourcing, and production monitoring that the German industry achieved only for critical military equipment. This civilian food standardization, maintained while supporting global military operations, revealed organizational capabilities that challenged German assumptions about American industrial discipline and coordination efficiency. The transformation began subtly, documented in censored letters home, where German prisoners struggled to describe their daily reality to families facing starvation. Unteroffizier Friedrich Weber wrote to his wife in Hamburg during September 1943, "Today I ate a sandwich made with ground peanuts and great preserves. The Americans feed this to their children every day. I cannot explain how this is possible when you write of eating potato peels for dinner." His letter, preserved in military archives, captured the cognitive dissonance experienced by thousands of prisoners confronting abundance that contradicted everything Nazi propaganda had taught them about American weakness and decadence. Individual testimonies revealed the gradual acceptance process as prisoners moved from suspicion to appreciation to psychological dependence on foods their homeland couldn't provide. In his diary, Hans Müller, a panzer commander from the Afrika Korps, recorded that peanut butter initially disgusted him as American decadence. Still, within weeks, he began requesting extra portions and experimenting with different jelly combinations. His entries documented the slow erosion of ideological certainty as physical comfort challenged intellectual conviction. By November 1943, he wrote, "If Americans are weak and degenerate, why do they eat better than German officers while fighting a war on multiple continents?" The letters home profoundly impacted German families, receiving descriptions of abundance that their government declared impossible. Military censors allowed these food descriptions because they seemed harmless, not recognizing their propaganda value for America. German civilians reading about enemy prisoners consuming daily meals that exceeded their monthly rations began questioning Nazi explanations for wartime hardships. Wives wrote back expressing disbelief, asking if American food descriptions were propaganda designed to break prisoner morale, unable to accept that enemies provided better nutrition than their own nation managed for loyal citizens. Cultural adaptation occurred gradually as German prisoners learned to appreciate flavor combinations foreign to European palates. The sweet-salty contrast initially seemed bizarre to men raised on savory breads and minimal sugar consumption, but repeated exposure created a genuine preference for American combinations. Prisoners began requesting specific jelly flavors, developing individual tastes that reflected personal choice rather than survival necessity. This evolution from suspicious consumption to discriminating preference marked fundamental psychological shifts from a scarcity mindset to abundance expectations. The comfort food phenomenon emerged as prisoners began associating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with safety, security, and kindness rather than imprisonment and defeat. German soldiers who had experienced combat stress, supply shortages, and military discipline found psychological refuge in foods that represented civilian normalcy and democratic plenty. These simple sandwiches became symbols of American benevolence, creating positive emotional associations with enemy culture that challenged fundamental assumptions about warfare, nationalism, and civilizational superiority. Work details in American kitchens provided intimate knowledge of preparation methods that revealed cultural attitudes impossible to understand through military observation alone. German prisoners learned that American mothers prepared sandwiches without measuring ingredients, adding peanut butter and jelly according to individual family preferences rather than following precise recipes. This casual approach to valuable ingredients demonstrated abundance so complete that careful conservation became unnecessary, challenging German cultural values, emphasizing frugality and resource preservation as moral virtues. The comparative analysis developed organically as prisoners contrasted their current nutrition with memories of German military and civilian rations. When available, black bread provided basic sustenance without pleasure or satisfaction, while ersatz coffee offered warmth without nutrition or genuine flavor. American sandwiches delivered both nutritional content and eating pleasure, combining practical sustenance with sensory enjoyment in ways German food culture never attempted. This comparison revealed American priorities favoring individual satisfaction alongside collective needs, rather than demanding sacrifice for abstract national goals. Kitchen assignments allowed prisoners to observe American food preparation customs that challenged military concepts of hierarchy and privilege. Guards and prisoners ate identical sandwiches prepared by similar methods, using identical ingredients, demonstrating equality of treatment that contradicted Nazi theories about racial superiority and social stratification. Officers received no special food privileges, enlisted men shared identical meals, and civilian workers consumed equivalent nutrition, revealing democratic values expressed through egalitarian food distribution. The democracy connection became explicit as prisoners recognized that food equality reflected broader American social principles. The same society that provided identical sandwiches to enemies and citizens, guards and prisoners, rich and poor children, operated on assumptions about human worth that Nazi ideology explicitly rejected. This daily demonstration of democratic values through food sharing proved more persuasive than political arguments or ideological lectures, creating understanding through experience rather than instruction. Ideological deconstruction accelerated as the mathematics of abundance became undeniable to German prisoners trained in military logistics and resource calculation. If Americans were weak, decadent and industrially inferior, how could they simultaneously fight global warfare while feeding enemies better than Germany fed loyal citizens? The casual waste of premium ingredients, the standardized quality across vast distances, and the innovative food processing methods all contradicted Nazi explanations for German superiority and inevitable victory. These daily observations through sandwich consumption systematically dismantled ideological foundations more effectively than any re-education program could achieve. The future planning changes emerged as German prisoners began contemplating post-war possibilities within American social and economic systems, rather than assuming a return to Nazi Germany would restore previous certainties. Conversations in camp barracks increasingly featured discussions of American agricultural methods, food processing techniques, and consumer culture rather than military tactics or political ideology. Prisoners started imagining futures where their own children might enjoy the abundance they witnessed daily, recognizing that American prosperity offered better possibilities than Nazi promises of conquest and domination could provide. Spring 1946 brought German prisoners home to a nation where children begged for bread crusts while their fathers returned carrying American-earned wages and memories of daily abundance that seemed like fantasy tales. Klaus Hartmann stepped off the transport ship in Hamburg, carrying a canvas bag containing his final Red Cross package, 3 jars of American peanut butter, and grape jelly that would become family treasures rationed by the spoonful over months. His 8-year-old son Heinrich, who weighed 30 pounds less than when his father departed for Africa, stared in wonder at ingredients he had never seen, as his father spread the strange brown paste on precious white bread, obtained through black market trading. The reverse culture shock proved more traumatic than initial captivity, as former prisoners witnessed the devastation their absence had permitted while they gained weight and health in American camps. Medical examinations documented that returning POWs averaged 15 pounds heavier than at capture, with improved dental health, better cardiovascular condition, and enhanced muscle mass from consistent nutrition and voluntary labor programs. Their wives and children, meanwhile, showed signs of chronic malnutrition, vitamin deficiency, and stunted growth from 3 years of severe rationing and periodic starvation during bombing campaigns. Food package shipments reversed traditional patterns, as German prisoners used American camp wages to send sustenance home rather than receiving support from families. International Red Cross records documented 847,000 parcels sent from American POW camps to German addresses during 1944 and 1945, containing peanut butter, chocolate, coffee, and other American products that German recipients initially suspected were Allied propaganda items rather than actual food. These packages often provided better nutrition than German families received through official rationing systems, creating a psychological impact that undermined Nazi explanations for wartime sacrifice and inevitable victory. Post-war food culture transformation began immediately as former prisoners introduced American eating habits to German society, slowly recovering from defeat and destruction. Heinrich Weber, the Panzer commander who had documented his changing relationship with peanut butter, opened Hamburg's first American-style delicatessen in 1948, importing Skippy brand peanut butter and Welch's grape jelly through emerging trade relationships. His customer base consisted primarily of former POWs and their families, creating community spaces where American food experiences could be shared and validated among men whose stories seemed incredible to Germans who never left the homeland. The Marshall Plan connection developed naturally as former prisoners became advocates for American aid programs, having witnessed firsthand the productive capacity underlying offers of assistance. When Secretary of State George Marshall announced the European Recovery Program in June 1947, former POWs provided credible testimony about American abundance that made Reconstruction aid believable to skeptical German populations. Their descriptions of industrial food processing, agricultural mechanization, and consumer plenty gave substance to promises of economic recovery through democratic capitalism rather than centralized state control. Generational impact manifested as children of former prisoners grew up hearing detailed accounts of American abundance that initially seemed like fairy tales but gradually became aspirational goals for German recovery. Heinrich Hartmann, who first tasted his father's precious peanut butter in 1946, immigrated to America in 1962, specifically to experience the abundance his father described throughout his childhood. Immigration records show that children of German POWs comprised disproportionate percentages of post-war German emigrants to America, drawn by family narratives of democratic prosperity rather than economic desperation or political persecution. Business and industrial applications emerged as former prisoners applied observed American methods to German Reconstruction efforts. The supermarket concept, introduced to Germany during the 1950s, was championed by retailers who had witnessed American grocery stores during work assignments outside POW camps. They understood that democratic abundance required efficient distribution systems, standardized packaging, and consumer choice, rather than centralized allocation and scarcity-based rationing that characterized both Nazi and early post-war German economic systems. Cultural integration accelerated during the 1950s as American food products became symbols of recovery, modernity, and Western alliance rather than foreign occupation or cultural imperialism. German children discovered peanut butter through school lunch programs modeled on American examples, while their parents associated these foods with Marshall Plan assistance and NATO partnership. Grocery stores stocked American brands alongside traditional German products, creating consumer choices that former prisoners recognized from their captivity experiences decades earlier. Modern German food culture reflects a complete transformation from wartime scarcity to abundance patterns that former POWs first witnessed in American prison camps. Contemporary German supermarkets stock multiple peanut butter brands, various jelly flavors, and sandwich breads that replicate American standards. German children consume peanut butter sandwiches as routine meals, while their grandparents remember when such ingredients represented impossible luxury. McDonald's operates over 1,400 German locations, serving American-style food to populations whose great-grandfathers would have considered such abundance fictional. The broader historical lesson transcends individual transformation stories to demonstrate soft power effectiveness that military conquest alone could never achieve. American treatment of enemy prisoners through abundant food, comfortable housing, and dignified work opportunities created positive associations with democratic values that survived decades of Cold War tensions and political changes. The men who returned from American camps became inadvertent ambassadors for democratic capitalism, carrying knowledge that communist alternatives could never match American productive capacity or individual prosperity. Contemporary relevance extends beyond historical curiosity to provide models for conflict resolution and cultural diplomacy in current international tensions. The German POW experience demonstrates that kindness and abundance prove more effective than punishment and deprivation for achieving lasting ideological transformation. Enemies converted through generosity become allies, while those defeated through cruelty remain potential threats, requiring permanent suppression. The story concludes where it began, with a simple sandwich representing civilizational differences too profound for military victory alone to resolve. German prisoners who couldn't believe peanut butter and jelly sandwiches became witnesses to democratic abundance, carrying home revolutionary knowledge that prosperity comes through production rather than conquest, cooperation rather than domination. Their transformation, achieved through daily acts of American generosity, reminds us that sometimes the most significant victories are won not through superior weapons, but through superior sandwiches. They are shared freely with those who expected only cruelty but received unexpected kindness instead.